So, on E3 2016, we were blessed by the second coming of the Sony press conference, and I gotta say, they've really been knocking it out of the park lately. Plenty of games were shown, and you know what? For the most part, I was really down with the lineup. Obviously, this isn't going to be a topical video about E3 because we're far out of season for that. I'd rather like to talk about two games that were actually revealed during the Sony press conference. Resident Evil 7 and God of War, and some possibly alarming changes I see to the games industry as a result of their reveals. Something that I personally think should be a big part of what makes a game series is consistency. While I'm not exactly opposed to different ideas showing up in new games, when I'm putting my faith into a franchise, it's because I want more of the same rather than something different. Take for example, Final Fantasy. Though all games have their radical differences, sometimes right down to the full gameplay style itself, just about, if not every game in the main series is about a group of collaborators and rivals, utilizing different class-based attributes to undergo a quest guided by a mystical power, be it deity, fate, or crystals. So it should come as no surprise that I don't seem to share the opinion of the vocal majority of fans when these two games come swinging in being the opposite of what their series are. I'll make my point clear for those who don't want to hear my overly bitter and contrarian stance here. Both of these series are frontrunners and trendsetters of their genres, which, as of the current generation, are considered niche. I'm a huge fan of these genres and I don't want to see them go due to the critical acclaim and loads of cash these games are almost certainly going to get. That's it. Major point across. Bye-bye! So desu ka. Anata wa ore no ryoniki ni no koremasu. Demo yorioku no shoisa o shatai desu ka? Omoshori ne. Ongai shimasu. Nihongo o hanete taisi shimasu. Ore no Nihongo wa waruri desu. I'll start off with God of War because I don't have a series bias there. Allow me to be the first to reiterate that I'm not a huge fan of these games, mostly for aesthetic reason. I prefer my gore porn to be played for laughs rather than drama. And also, because Devil May Cry spoiled me on combat mechanics. I won't, however, deny the huge influence the series has had on the character action genre with things like casted abilities and grapple attacks. It also serves as the only real modern mainstream game in the genre, and it's important to acknowledge that. That being said, aside from the third game, God of War really took a backseat in Sony's first-party lineup for the majority of the 7th generation of consoles. In its absence came the Uncharted series and The Last of Us, along with many other games, where storytelling had a much stronger relevance to the success of those series rather than their game mechanics. So along comes the reveal of the semi-sequel, semi-reboot in the form of God of War PS4. Sony made the questionable decision to make the game style something akin to The Last of Us, much to my annoyance. I appear to be the exception, however, judging how the transition into walkie-talkie feels type story thing has gotten almost nothing but universal acclaim. Along with it, God of War is also bringing in a lot of problems from modern AAA games, like putting all the horsepower into graphics and making the game pretty, but forcing the game to have repulsive amounts of motion blur and that god-awful zoomed-in FOV, because Jesus Christ, how else will they get the game to barely run at 30 frames per second? It also kinda baffles me on how weirdly acceptant people are of Kratos becoming the unadulterated essence of dad. This is really out of character for him, but people almost don't seem to notice. Like, this is the same guy who literally destroyed the world because Zeus looked at him the wrong way, and now he's teaching boy to deer. Yeah, I ain't buying it. I can only wonder what would happen if someone did a reverse Kratos and took a well-established character and suddenly made him Kratos-like. Wait, that already happened. People didn't like it. Yes, I did just insinuate that Dad Kratos is as bad of a character change as Reboot Dante Fight Me, but I don't even like God of War, so why should I care? Yes, it's true that overall this doesn't really affect me. My worries come from the success I know this game will get. People will lavish this as the way God of War was always meant to be. And more importantly, the game will line Sony's pockets and other companies with goofy action characters are going to notice. All I'm saying is that this game increases the chance that Devil May Cry will get a critically acclaimed sequel, where Dante gingerly teaches Nero how to hunt demons. It'll run at 27 FPS and features 70% of the gameplay as walking, and that terrifies me. All being said, when the game drops, and people are eating this up, I'll just be thinking, man, I still wish God of War started gameplay with warring and not walking. I'm a little more chill about Resident Evil 7, and I'm actually somewhat looking forward to it after seeing the recent Tokyo Game Show trailer. The game looks spooky, and I'm glad to finally see Resident Evil elements like gunplay and mutants. My real qualms come from the sudden change in tone here. Whether it was being a survival horror game or an over-the-top action game, Resident Evil's always been a very silly and camp series. Like, let's be real guys, even when it was being a horror series, Resident Evil was still about playing as buff cops taking on hordes of zombies with shotguns and rocket launchers, featuring such exciting things as Jill sandwiches and big blocks of tofu. I get where Capcom's coming from. The silliness of previous titles wouldn't really go all that great in VR, and one strong mutant hillbilly is much scarier than a 50-pack of shambling corpse dudes. But if we were to go that way with the tone, I'd at least have it as Resident Evil's designated new idea spin-off series. Hell, Resident Evil Virtual Revelations could be a really badass title too. I can at least admire how Capcom isn't making this a reboot, and actually part of the Resident Evil universe. But that may actually work to the game's downfall. If Umbrella Corporation or one of the older protagonists show up, all the tension is going to be drained right out of this new serious somber tone because we'll simply have all the memories of the old games. Of course, this really is a matter of personal preference here. As I said, I prefer my gore porn to be funny, so Resident Evil trading in its charisma for stronger spooks probably hits me a bit harder than most. Of course, this will have its effects on the entire genre too. When Resident Evil 4 made its horror a bit more action-oriented, we got a lot more action horror games as a result. It's a bit different this time, however. Rather than making the trends like Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 7 is actually following the trends that the modern video game horror genre has been taking with games like Amnesia and Outlast. It's traded in the charisma that set it aside from other horror games for guaranteed sales, and I'm sad to see that charisma go. I just want diversity in gaming, for the smaller subgenres to exist. And with these two major series losing their way, the sad fact is the diversity we used to have in our games gets ever and ever smaller.